This is Democracy Watch. Marc, we have some concerning news here. There is a man named Emil Bovee. He was a top Justice Department official under Trump. He was also Trump's criminal defense attorney prior to him joining the White House. He's now a nominee for the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. He was handed a questionnaire that judicial nominees get, and in that questionnaire refused to rule out the possibility of the president being able to run for a third term. So can I have your reaction first and foremost to that update, to somebody who may very well be a federal judge who doesn't feel that it's appropriate to be able to opine on the legality of a president serving a third term?
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. I mean, the idea that a lawyer, forget about a Department of Justice lawyer, which is what he is, and forget on top of that the fact that he has been nominated now for a federal judgeship on a very high court, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. The idea that he cannot say that the U.S. Constitution says that Donald Trump can only serve 2 terms is shocking. I mean, it would be, just to throw everyone out there, it would be the equivalent of saying, can Congress outlaw black people from voting?
Yeah.
And the person saying, well, I wouldn't be appropriate for me to answer that.
Right.
Or can Congress shut down all of the newspapers in America? It would be inappropriate for me. I mean, like, this is not in question. Like, there is no debate. There's no, I mean, you can see I'm speechless. Like, there's no argument or hypothetical or fact missing from this equation that would raise any doubt that Donald Trump cannot serve another term, just as there is no doubt that Barack Obama cannot serve another term.
Well, so let me ask this, because this question has been floating around the zeitgeist. There was a clip between Steve Bannon and Chris Cuomo where Bannon virtually assured Cuomo that Donald Trump would be sworn in as president in January 20th or 21st of 2029. Is there any plausible way that Trump could seek a third term? Any roundabout way that he would be able to do that?
Look, I think that Steve Bannon, who is more forthright than a lot of the other people in the MAGA movement, is telling us directly that Donald Trump doesn't plan on following the U.S. Constitution. Now, the fact that Donald Trump doesn't plan on following the U.S. Constitution doesn't mean that there was an open legal question. It just means he plans on not following the U.S. Constitution. Right. So it is more important than ever that a sitting Department of Justice senior official, someone nominated for a federal judgeship, it is more important than ever that they say clearly what the Constitution says, which is that he may not do so under and be within the scope of the U.S. Constitution. The fact that Donald Trump tried to violently overthrow the results of a free and fair election in 2020 should tell everyone how little Donald Trump cares about what the law is or what the Constitution is. But it should be very easy for a judicial nominee to say, no, you cannot overturn the will of the electorate through violently storming the Capitol. You should be able to very easily also say, as a judicial nominee, it is absolutely clear, plain as day, that Donald Trump cannot run for and serve a third term.
Do you have concerns that as we look forward, that the horizon seems to show that that it's going to become more dangerous than it is even right now, which I think anybody can objectively say this is the most volatile moment in American history, certainly the most lawless moment in American history. The fact that Trump is trying to populate the federal judiciary with judges for whom acknowledging objective reality as it relates to what the Constitution says or the illegality of being able to run for a third term, how that is kind of a litmus test for what kind of judges he wants to put on the courts.
Look, there is a very dangerous movement within the mainstream of the Republican Party. This is not an outlier. This is well within the mainstream of the Republican Party. This movement that uses very deliberate, coded language to say what they really mean. So it's not just this answer, but Bovee, remember, refused to say that Joe Biden had won the 2020 election. Instead, what he said was that Joe Biden was certified the winner and served as president.
Let's throw to that clip right here.
Who won the 2020 election for president of the United States?
President Biden was certified as the winner of that election.
So you give the standard answer. You can't say that he won because he got the majority of votes and also got the Electoral College victory?
I think the characterizations that you just made, Senator, are both political, and so I can't address them under the canons, and they're also tied up in ongoing litigation.
Help me understand how it's political to state who got the most votes in any election.
Senator, I'm just trying to be precise. The process by which our country declares the victor in an election is a certification process. President Biden was certified.
Right. So that language that he has chosen, that is MAGA election denier code. Okay. That is the language that has been agreed upon by Donald Trump and his inner circle to signal to each other that someone is in this movement of people that do not accept the outcome of the 2020 election, do not agree that Donald Trump cannot serve another term, right? It is part of the authoritarian playbook that they are executing to use these very odd formulations. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on whether he can run again. Joe Biden was certified the winner, right? These are very odd formulations, but they are very dangerous formulations because they are intended to signal to one another that they're all on the same team. And this is, like I said, this is not just a judicial nominee here or a judicial nominee there. You'd get the same answer that Pam Bondi would give. You'd get the same answer that Kash Patel would give. You'd get the same answer that anyone else in Trump's cabinet would give, that senior Republican officials would give, that many U.S. senators, Republican senators would give, that activists, that militia movement organizers, right? It is the code language of a conspiracy on the right or a conspiracy theorists on the right that essentially Joe Biden was not legitimately the president. You will hear sometimes Trump say, I was elected, this is my third term. I was elected to my second term. And I suspect part of this like conspiracy theory will eventually be, well, that he's already served 3 terms and therefore he can serve a 4th term. Like it is very, very dangerous rhetoric that we are seeing. And the fact that we are getting it from someone who's going to be put on the Court of Appeals and that you will have a bunch of cowards, a bunch of feckless U.S. senators, Republican senators who will say, oh, I didn't read it that way. Oh, I didn't pay attention to that. Oh, I didn't hear that answer. As they confirm him to the Third Circuit is the reason why we need to defeat Republicans in 2026. Because this is only, you're exactly right, Brian. We are in a very dangerous moment. Like, let's be clear. People say, Mark, are you worried? And I say, yes, I'm worried, right? Like I'd be an idiot not to be worried. I'm worried about my own personal safety. I'm worried about my professional, my clients and the work I do. I'm worried for Brian, who's a very visible critic of Donald Trump. It is a very dangerous time to be someone willing to speak out. But to see these people now, not just in high office in the Department of Justice and the FBI, but on the courts is very, very worrisome.
Do you have any faith that even within the Republican conference in the Senate, that maybe some of them will recognize the extent to which this is disqualifying? Or are we still in a moment where, look, if Trump says jump, they say how high, and if he wants to push through Emil Bovee in the same way that he got this Republican Senate to push through people as unqualified, aggressively unqualified as Pete Hegseth and RFK Jr. and Linda McMahon, and I mean the list goes on. But do you think that we're in a moment right now? And I mean, granted, this is not a prediction show, so this take this with a grain of salt. But do you have faith right now that some of these Republican senators will have woken up to the danger of confirming somebody like Emil Bovee?
No, you and I talked about this back at the beginning of the confirmation process. I said at that point, the reason why Donald Trump is putting up Tulsi Gabbard, the reason why he's nominating people like Pete Hegseth is because he wants to make the Republican senators debase themselves at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that once they have lost all their dignity, once they have capitulated and confirmed the most preposterous nominees into positions of high office, that they would never stand up to him. Because if they didn't stand up to him on Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, why are they going to stand up to him for a federal
Right. It's to retain what dignity? You've already contracted all of it out to Trump.
Correct, right? I mean, which is more obscene, that you vote for Emil Bovee to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, or that you voted for Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense, or
Right.
or Kennedy to be HHS Secretary, or Kash Patel to be FBI Director, right? So Donald Trump knows now he owns these people's votes. Like they don't, the most interesting moment of the last week was at the signing ceremony of the terrible bill, when it ends with the Speaker of the House giving Donald Trump his gavel. And I thought, okay, well, Mike Johnson has acknowledged, he doesn't have anything left. He has now given his gavel to Donald Trump. And so, no, do I think there'll be votes against some of these nominees? Yes, I'll tell you how many votes there'll be. There'll be one fewer vote against them that is necessary to defeat them.
Yep. They will allow whatever people they feel like they have to protect, because maybe they're frontline senators, Susan Collins, who's going to be up in 2026. They'll allow her to avoid this. Maybe, Tom Tillis is resigning, so he might be the other vote against it. But you're right. They will have one fewer than is necessary and just get it done, while giving as much protection as they can to the people who obviously know how dangerous this would be. But the rest of them are going to fall in line, because that's the name of the game.
Yeah, and I want to make a prediction on Tillis. Just wait. They'll get to Tillis and they'll say, look, you're going to need another career after this. You're going to want your staff to get jobs. You're going to want to be in good standing. You're not going to want to be a pariah. I wouldn't count on Tom Tillis being a profile in courage, even for the next few months.
And so let's finish off with this. What are next steps now in the confirmation process, and what are you looking at in terms of getting this most out into the spotlight?
Yeah. So the first thing is we need to accept that the Democrats are doing actually an excellent job here. Okay. So it is very easy to criticize Senate Democrats. Look at what they have gotten exposed in this Bovee hearing, right? Yeah. It is not just what happened in the public hearing testimony, where I thought they did an excellent job. The questionnaire that we've been talking about here, some texts that have come out in recent days involving the what's been going on with whistleblowers behind the scenes. So I do want to say, this is a place where Democrats have really done a good job of exposing the worst of the worst, and given a good reason why we need to make sure we elect Senate Democrats to be in power in 2026. So that's one thing. The second thing, though, in terms of what I'm looking at, is whether this becomes the blueprint, right? I've said there's coded language that is used within the MAGA movement, within the election denier movement, but does this become a formalized process? What do I mean by that? We all became very familiar with a certain formulation that conservative judges and justices would use around Roe versus Wade, right? Where you became, there was precedent upon precedent and super precedent. Remember all that? There was a formula that they used that once they realized it would get them through the hearings, they would then use. And so the question is, has Bovee been successful in that? Do other nominees now decide that they will simply pull exactly the same formula and use exactly the same tactics that he used? And so we just, for the next, 18 months or so until the 2026 elections, we just see one judge after another, judicial nominee after another judicial nominee, just sort of adopt the same tactics? Or is there a belief that, this actually wasn't that good for him? The administration, suffered a little bit politically, and it sets them back, at least to the drawing board, on these answers.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will, of course, stay on top of this. I know that you've been covering this. For folks who are watching right now, if you're not yet subscribed to Marc's YouTube channel, that's Democracy Docket, please make sure to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to be a subscriber, but it helps elevate his voice, and it's never been more important than right now to do exactly that. So I'm going to put the link to Democracy Docket right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.